Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is now 5:30 p.m. Welcome to the Planning and Zoning Work Session of Monday, March 17th, 2025. We will begin with a presentation on destination resorts. Mr. Sanders.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Philip Sanders, Assistant City Manager. As a follow-up to the work session that the Planning and Zoning Commission held on March 4th, it was requested by the Commission to have a representative from the property owner here to answer questions, provide additional information about destination resorts, answer questions about their development proposals. I want to introduce Mark Bokenheid, who is the Senior Vice President of Global Real Estate for Las Vegas Sands Corporation, and he's going to provide a brief presentation and, of course, is available to answer questions from the Commission. If there are additional questions regarding the ordinance itself, I'm happy to address those as well. Chairman.
Great, thank you.
Mark?
Good afternoon. I appreciate the opportunity to come and talk with you all and the members of the audience to talk a little bit about what our vision might be for this site. We entered into an agreement to buy this site in late 2022. We formalized that purchase in early 2023. Wanting to understand at that time what the city's thoughts were for this parcel, we had several introductory meetings with the Irving Chamber of Commerce about previous development proposals. And we learned that the city had recognized that some changes to the PUD 6 were needed and were underway. As a landowner, we requested further consideration be given to the importance of this site and the ability of a larger scale, high density mixed-use development that could be transformative to the community. I think this is a fairly straightforward request in front of this board tonight. First is a high density mixed-use project suitable for this site. Second is a destination resort, a suitable component of this project. And I think these need further consideration just beyond the capacity of the site and the infrastructure to physically accommodate these uses. So the questions before us, relative to a destination resort, is do the uses that we're seeking have a beneficial impact to the city of Irving and the community, and what are those beneficial impacts? What are the potential adverse impacts, and how would we address them? This site is 175 acres, and from a development point of view or a land planner's perspective, it's ideal and perfect for large-scale development. And that's what drew us to this site 2.5 years ago. It's surrounded by great highway access on 3 sides, a major recent investment from TxDOT, a planned DART station, an elevated bridge with connection to the old stadium site, and easy access to 2 airports. The transportation network is optimal. We've had recent discussions with TxDOT where they have illustrated the ease with which this site can be accessed with minimal impact to the surrounding streets and the community. This site is perfect for a large-scale, tourist-based leisure and business development, and there's probably not a better site in all of the DFW metro area. To the east, it's surrounded by manufacturing facilities, warehouses, and car dealerships, which take advantage of the same highway access and great visibility. The rest of the adjacent property, generally to the west and south, is vacant and undeveloped, owned by the University of Dallas and the city of Irving. We've had some very preliminary conversations with the University of Dallas, with President Sanford, and we're going to continue to do so moving forward. Physically, the surrounding highways and this Trinity River make this site somewhat of an island, allowing the development to be contained and controlled. 3 highways on the side and the Trinity River. This buffer and the isolation of the site gives us an opportunity to address the concerns of the neighbors and to create some buffers. We can work with our neighbors and we'll jointly plan the sorting of the programmatic elements that we seek to put on this site within our boundaries to strike the right balance with the neighboring context. I'm an architect and a land planner, and I know that the scale and the density proposed and the range of uses is right for this specific site to create something iconic for the city of Irving. And I think that the Planning and Zoning Committee would agree to that statement. The PUD 6 revision focuses on opening the site up to more density and a wider range of permitted uses, and it does not include development standards at this time. Should this revision be approved, we have committed to working with the city planning and zoning team to create development standards specifically for this site. For those unfamiliar with these standards, they define things like the quality of design and exterior materials, open space requirements, parking strategies, signage, and similar issues. These are standards that we will be required to conform with when we come forward with a proposed development submission. What I've talked about so far are requirements that any developer would be required to consider, and we're happy to comply with. However, there's one component that's of concern, and we've heard this concern from several of the city council members and some of the community. It's about the inclusion of a destination resort in this rezoning request that would include gaming. And we've heard the community, and we'd like to take an opportunity first to define what a destination resort is, as it's different than a casino property. That is not what we're doing. That is an illustration of a standalone casino. It's purpose-built as a casino box with minimal amenities beyond some food and beverage and parking. Its only purpose is gaming, and it has nothing to offer the community. That's not what we proposed. These are destination resorts. This is the Venetian Plaza, one of our properties in Vegas that we developed. You can see with the metrics, the scale of the project and the scale of the various components of this project. This is Marina Bay Sands in Singapore, another one of our projects. Again, you can see the scale of the projects that we're talking about as a destination resort and the components of that project. This is not one of ours, but it's another good example. It's Mohegan Sun in Connecticut. Again, another large-scale integrated destination resort that has a wide variety of uses, not just gaming. Destination resorts also contain a collection of uses that appeal to locals and visitors. And it's important to understand that the non-gaming attractions that come with a destination resort, and I'd like to quickly roll through some of these so people understand what we provide beyond just a gaming floor, which seems to be the main thought of our projects. You have high-end and luxury and accessible retail, great food and beverage venues, live entertainment, and I will mention one thing is all of the slides that I'm showing you here are in integrated resorts with the exception of Cosm, which a little bit north here, I figured I'd throw that in because people understand what that is if they visited it. These are great entertainment venues that are not just for gamblers and guests, but can also be utilized and often are by the community. Every one of these is in an integrated resort. Family attractions, Team Lab, which is a Japanese-based company developing integrated, immersive experiences in every one of our properties. You have aquariums, you have art, garden aspects. These are Bellagio, these are the Wynn. The top two are a botanical garden that we are creating in our properties in Macau, not gaming. And you have arts and culture, Science Museum in Singapore, art, the Sphere, and other art aspects of some of our other properties. And of course, there is gaming, but it's one component of a greater entertainment offering within a destination resort. It's not that, and it's important to understand that. It's important for this community to understand that that is not what we're doing. That is not who Sands is, and that is not what we plan to develop. Now, I know the public is concerned about the casino component, and I understand that. And I'd like to show a couple of metrics on two of our properties that define the scale of the casino in two of them that are relative to all the other uses in our properties. So I'm going to start with the Venetian Plaza. And I think it's important, we talk about square footage of projects. This will be a graphic representation for people to see what this component of gaming is relative to everything else. So I'm going to flip through very quickly the floor plans, working vertically with various uses in it. So obviously we have registration, that's meeting space. And we have destination retail, then we have destination dining. Here is entertainment, and there's gaming. And in this particular property, that's all the gaming that's in this property. I'll go to the next floor. Here's the upper level. All of that is retail and meeting space. Here is more food and beverage. Here is more theater space. I'll go to the next level. More meeting space, pool spaces, spas. The casino is one component of a significant amount of entertainment venues in our properties. This is not just a casino. I'll walk through the same thing in Marina Bay Sands. meeting space, the shops at Marina Bay Sands, all retail, food and beverage, art science museum, there's the gaming. Go to the next level, hotel registration, more expo space, more retail, more dining, more theaters, and one more level of gaming salons. And again, it's a small component of these projects. This is what a destination resort is. It's a valuable product to drive business and leisure tourism into the city of Irving. And economically, these kinds of projects and this project would be a home run for the city for future financial growth and stability. That should be important to this community as well. Financial stability. So we sit here today as a landowner. We pay close to $1 million in real estate taxes on a vacant piece of land. Now, we participated in a town hall on Monday night. Thank you, Councilman Crenowit and Councilman Lamorges for assisting us through that. It was clear that the residents have concerns about the impact the casino would have on this community. But I also think that it's clear that the type of product I just described is not what's been envisioned and not what's been described out in this community. I think it's important for everyone to understand this difference. The community has valid concerns. As one of the largest operators in the world, we're concerned as well. We operate in the most highly regulated industry in the world, and we're required by those regulators to proactively address those issues to keep our patrons, our employees, and the community safe. In Friday's town hall, we committed to additional town halls and open communication to better understand how to address their issues, how to better educate everyone about exactly what we envision for this potential development. It's a large site. It will take years for the full vision to be realized, and we commit to regular, meaningful collaboration with the city and the community throughout this process. Now, I'd also like to touch on the benefits that this vision that we have could bring to City of Irving and its residents. And I'll only address specifically the destination resort component in this. When you think about attractive attributes for a family-focused community, I think about, and I think you would as well, safety, education, cultural opportunities, entertainment venues, quality retail establishments, sports and outdoor activities, and well-maintained infrastructure. Those are things that are important to anyone that has a family, and frankly, those that don't have a family. However, all of those things are challenging for cities and towns to provide, as they're directly impacted by budget constraints. To provide those things, like more police and firemen, sports fields for soccer, cricket, baseball, arts programs and museum funding. Cities have challenges without raising funds through taxes and bonds. But these are important things for the community and the residents to have to create the family environment that they desire. This destination resort component alone is projected to create 9,000 full-time, well-paying jobs with benefits. These jobs often become full-time careers for many people. And I'd like to talk a little bit about the projected revenues from a project. We envision that our first piece of the destination resort would be somewhere around a $4 billion investment. That $4 billion generates tax revenues for this town. We believe that it would put somewhere around $25 million a year directly into the city of Irving. It would put $40 million a year of tax revenue into the school district, $8.5 million into Dallas County, $4.25 million into the community college district, $8.5 million into the Parkland Hospital District, and a total of somewhere in the $85 or $90 million a year range. This money flows back into the community year after year, allowing the city leaders to continue to provide those things that the citizens and the residents need and want. But this only happens with a destination resort. Now, there was some question the other night about the impacts might be to the business community, and I'd make a few comments. We met a year or so ago with both the Irving Convention Center folks and reps from the Toyota Music Factory to understand those facilities and how ours could mesh together. There's concern. Would we impact their businesses? Well, additional meeting space would bring more business tourism and tax dollars by attracting large events that go elsewhere. Our meeting and convention space would be additive to what exists and allow Irving to compete with both Fort Worth and Dallas for some of the biggest conventions that come to Texas. Would the corporate business community be concerned about a destination resort? We don't think so. We believe that the ability to offer them large blocks of meeting and convention space for corporate events, great destinations for business dinners, high-end accommodations that would be very attractive to them. Our entertainment venues would help promote Irving as the entertainment destination in the region with an increase in venues of various sizes. Every conceivable type of entertainment could be accommodated. This would be additive to what exists here and create more tourism and sustainable growth for Irving. A destination resort development relies on hundreds of vendors and suppliers. We have a proven track record of local and small business outreach, and we encourage and assist in the creation of new businesses and grow existing businesses through those efforts to support us. Every one of our properties employs sustainable design practices in design, construction, and operations, and all of our recent building projects have achieved a LEED rating. Why is that important? A large development consumes a large amount of resources, and our goal is to reduce that strain, develop and use renewable strategies to protect those resources for the future. It's part of our company ethos. Our entire new company headquarters in Las Vegas is powered by solar energy. We want to be a strong partner with this city and become a source of pride to the community. And I think believe we've already started that process. If you consider our site, let me go back, I'm sorry. If we go back to our site, prior to owning it, it was an open wasteland with illegal squatters and constant illegal dumping occurring on that site. A year ago, we spent over $2 million to clean it up, secure it with gates and fencing, and we continue to maintain it. We didn't have to do this. Why did we? Because we want to be a good corporate citizen in this community. Now, we've also been asked, why does the destination resort need to be approved now? We need certainty. Should gaming become legalized by the state, and should it be approved by the citizens of the state of Texas through a public referendum, we need the ability to quickly respond to submissions for a license award. Second, at some point, we'd like to begin development on this site. It's a valuable asset that needs to be capitalized on, and I'm sure the community would like to see something there as well. But a master plan with a destination resort is very different than a master plan of one without a destination resort. They're vastly different. While we've not created any master plan studies as of yet, as an architect, a planner, and a development person, I know this. They're different. If we get approval with a destination resort included as a permitted use, we can actually consider beginning to conceptualize this site with a placeholder for a future destination resort. This could potentially allow us to begin design and development on the non-destination resort uses. Those are the two reasons why this decision is critical to us. In today's market, large tracts of land are sought for warehouse distribution centers and data centers. The previous owner considered this the perfect site for that. Big, flat, ready to go. But not us. We're not looking at today. We're looking at tomorrow for this site. We're looking for a project that can create a sense of place and identity with a look to the future, a project with a wide range of uses, quality development, financially strong, and that would benefit this community and attract new visitation and provide amenities to this community. We propose to create an exciting and bold vision for Irving. Thank you. And I'm open for questions.
Thank you, I appreciate it. And thank you for accepting our request that you come out to speak and to also answer our questions. I'm sure that the commissioners have various questions for you. We had various questions last time, and we're hopeful to be able to try and get some answers on some of those. But I wondered if, before we get into that, you could sort of go over what you mentioned a couple of times, the sort of timeline and sort of general terms, but a sense of what sort of timeline y'all have in mind for this development, especially as there's the sort of the connected piece of having to get approval from the legislature and a constitutional amendment and then new legislation and all of that entails. So what sort of time frame would we be looking at for the different stages in this I know you can't say for sure, but just based on your experience and sort of what you're forecasting at this point.
Well, it is hard because the key to starting development on this is a destination resort. And understanding whether that continues to move forward and makes progress in the state legislature or not, and whether it makes progress this year, 2 years from now, 4 years from now. But having the right to build one there, a destination resort, should it become legal, gives us the ability to start thinking about moving forward with some development on this site. We have probably 1.5 to 2 years of site work to do. We have a drainage ditch that comes through the site, which will take a bit of effort to remove and relocate. It has probably a 1 to 1.5 years approval process, and then the physical construction. We have several other easements, access easements to the levee and some other things that we need to work on getting relocated or removed. So there is nothing to start for the next year or two because we have to move various elements out of the way to actually create a developable site within our boundaries.
So you wouldn't even start working on plans for, I take when you say destination resort, you mean that term to necessarily include the gaming component.
That's what a destination resort is.
So you wouldn't even be looking at beginning any sort of plans on a destination resort until you know whether the legislature, or until there is approval from the legislature in some fashion for there being gaming.
Well, for me to master plan this site with the assumption that gaming is coming and with the right to build it on this site, I could start some very initial master planning because I know what a destination resort is. I've done multiple destination resorts. I could envision what it would be, and we could then site it relative to other uses that might go on this site.
Okay. But you're saying even the earliest that would really happen, I guess, even if you were able to get the legislature to pass sending it to an amendment this session, which isn't looking very good according to the news.
I can't comment on that.
Yeah.
No, but my point here is that
But you wouldn't be like 1.5 years, you said, other work that just has to be done regardless of what gets built there.
True.
Before you could really begin doing any sort of plans on a destination resort.
Right, but if I know that I have the ability to do a destination resort, I could start on master planning the parts of the site that are non-destination resort components. Whether it be retail, it becomes some residential, high-rise, mid-rise residential components, other components.
Okay, so I understood destination resort to include all of the different components. So when you're saying all the parts that aren't destination resort, does that mean everything except the gaming? Or is there other parts that you're talking about that you would be waiting on?
I would not be starting any of the components that are part of a destination resort until I have the rights to do that.
From the state or from the city?
From you all.
From the city?
From the city.
Okay.
I can do a master plan on the site that allows me to understand where the destination resort would be and where non-destination resort uses could go.
Okay,
For example, residential towers.
yeah, okay, all right.
That's
And-
why this is important, because the two master plans will be very different.
Yes, yeah, I would imagine. All right, okay,
Okay.
Commissioner Denny?
I'd like to follow up on those questions.
Sure.
I mean, so I can appreciate the uncertainty as to not wanting to start development unless there's some kind of green light that would be possible. It strikes me there might be the same problem with how gaming gets defined if it were ever to become legal. Because the way I've heard it described, there's an assumption that if it becomes legal, it'll be regulated in a certain way by a certain gaming commission with a certain number of licenses, with certain minimum standards where only first-class, developers or operators can operate casino gaming. But as I understand it, there's no guarantee that that is going to be the legislation if ever it gets passed. I mean, that's true, right?
Well, we believe that there will be development standards, minimum investment requirements, and there will be regulations probably talking about perhaps size of the casino component relative to everything else.
But it may not.
But it may not.
So
We don't have certainty because there's been no forward movement on this, and there's not been any establishment of a gaming review board or a gaming commission to actually start to write those regulations.
Well, so I think one thing we might be considering later is whether or not it would make sense to see this vision for a destination resort without right now greenlighting the gaming component, because it's not clear what that means from a legislative perspective. So I guess I'm trying to understand, if you don't want to start putting together development plans because you don't know if this is going to be allowed on the local level, why, if you get that, why would you then put development plans if you don't know what it looks like at the state level?
We've done enough destination resorts, and in the conversations we've had, we've kind of defined what we believe would be the scale and the magnitude of a project. I can intuitively lay something out that is fungible and flexible once the actual guidelines would come from a gaming commission in terms of the size of the project. They typically do not legislate number of hotel keys, amount of meeting space, right? It's more about the gaming component. And as you can see, that is a small piece of this project, but it is the most integral part. We don't design and develop anything other than destination resorts. That is our business. So it is the core piece of what this development would be centered around.
Thank you.
I have a question. So it may not pass this year, may not pass next year, right? How long are you willing to wait before you decide to go ahead and develop something else on that property? Or would it be, if it doesn't look like it's ever going to pass here in Texas, you're going to sell the property and go someplace else?
That's a tough question to answer, because I don't know if it doesn't happen this year, we're probably interested in seeing what happens 2 years from now, but if it becomes 4 years, 6 years, 8 years, at some point you say, let's get moving. And that's where I'm asking for this to be allowed on the site so I can start actually developing something other than the non-gaming piece, with the anticipation that I have designed it to accommodate a destination resort, so that I could actually start something if it looked 2 years from now that it was not happening, and 4 years from now, I could actually start potentially developing something on the site.
So you're saying if you lay out the plan and you lay out a spot for an arena, and we're 2 years down the line.
Who said anything about an arena?
I'm just.
Oh,
But
here we go.
You would potentially be building that as you're still waiting.
Potentially.
Okay. That answers that question. I have some more, but I can yield to anyone else if they.
Go ahead.
Okay. So one question I have, I looked up Bethlehem, Pennsylvania,
Yes.
and it looked like you all, in Friday's meeting, that was discussed a lot about the Sands had owned Bethlehem.
Correct.
But it looks like you all sold that in 2019.
Correct.
So my concern when I see that is, will you all build this destination resort, and in 5 years, you sell it to somebody else that's not at Sands caliber, and then we're dealing with a property owner that lets that property go down?
I think that is highly unlikely, and I'll tell you why. One of the reasons why we parted ways with Sands Bethlehem was it was a snapshot in time where smaller regional casinos were considered as potentially part of our future. We built that one, realized that that was really an anomaly in the large-scale projects that we have, and we determined that it didn't fit with what our vision was to build very large-scale integrated destination resorts that have a huge conglomeration of meeting space and other uses, as I've illustrated in these projects. It wasn't the right fit for us, and so we parted ways with it. But I will tell you that that development was extremely well received by that community. It revitalized a town that was decimated with the closure of the Bethlehem steel plant. And it was embraced, and it's been very successful. Our vision is Texas. There is no other place here. I mean, we are pursuing an opportunity in New York, along with everybody else, but Texas is our focus. We really believe in Texas, the North Texas market in particular, and this site.
My next question is, I know that Vegas is very unionized. So
Yes.
I'm assuming that the jobs that you produce here at this destination resort are going to be union jobs.
I'm not able to answer that question. I'm just an architect. I just design them and build them. I don't know what the operational requirements would be here, either for construction or operations.
Okay. And you also talked about the large-scale construction projects that would happen at that site.
Correct.
If this was to come. How do you all ensure that those jobs go to, whether it's the people here in Irving, people across Texas, but they're not going to illegal immigrants or somebody's paying somebody under the table to work at the site?
Well, if I can talk a little bit about what we've done in New York, we reached out to the building trade unions very early on in that project. We have not yet been awarded a project there. We are expecting an award, a submission in the next 2 months and an award by the end of the year. But we brought them in very early to gauge their support for this project and understand what kind of construction workforce exists there, both good and bad, and worked with them to start to understand that should we be awarded this project and we get started with it, is the labor force there and the workforce suitable and big enough for what we would build? The scale of what we're talking about here will require a lot of workers. And obviously, the best thing to do is find the most qualified workers that are local already. We could have, at peak times, something like 10,000 workers on this site building a 5 million square foot project. It's not inconceivable. So, we also are working with the local community college in Nassau County Community College, to talk about training programs to actually bring bring folks that want to learn the construction trades in and learn the construction trades to be part of the construction of that project if we're successful. I think we could do the same thing here, reach out into the building industry and the community here to figure out how we train the amount of people locally for the scale of this project.
And so let's just assume that you get the approval for the gaming and you build the destination resort. Do you bring in your own Sands employees from other places to come in and start out to train people, and then they go away and people locally have those jobs?
Well,
how do you handle that?
No, we would bring in probably a core of 20 people on the development side, the development oversight side, who are Sands employees. They know our product, they know our process, they know the quality level that we look for, and we would then hire local teams to come in and start to flesh out our team. A team for a project like this would probably on the development side be about 150 people, practices and the permitting process here. So it is beneficial for us to hire people with that local knowledge to run the day-to-day stuff of the jobs. And what we do is we basically represent the corporate office to maintain the program, the quality level, the schedule, and the product delivery.
Okay. So now my next question is about some of the underbelly things that happen with the casino that a lot of people are concerned about. So what do you all do to ensure there's not a high rise in prostitution at the casino, or ladies of the night coming around to patrons that's in the casino?
I'm not the best person to answer it, but I will tell you from firsthand experience what we do. Our job is to be proactive and searching out some of those things before they happen. All right, I sit in the corporate office, and every year I go through 13 hours of training every year, and every employee does, on human trafficking, prostitution, drug use, how to recognize those things before they happen. Problem gaming, same thing. We have lots of people that walk our property watching for problems. So we end up with a very proactive training program for all of our employees, whether they're down on the floor or they're in the corporate office, because anything bad that happens is a bad reflection on us too. It's bad. So we don't want any of that to happen. We are very proactive about this. We probably will be the safest place in Irving, honestly, with the amount of cameras we have through casinos, watching for bad behavior, with the amount of security people that we hire on top of the local police force. We have more security and more eyes for bad behavior than probably any place else. It's a highly regulated industry. Most highly regulated in the world is the gaming industry. So we watch proactively for problems, and then we're prepared if something pops up to resolve them very quickly.
Thank you.
Additional questions?
I have a few questions.
Sure.
So I guess on the casino gaming part, I'm kind of hearing two different things. One is it's a small part, relatively small part of a broader, diverse entertainment venue, but not so small that it's not like the core piece of what you're asking for permission to do now.
Correct.
I mean,
Correct.
And that, I mean, from what I understood from the town hall, it's at least 30% of net profits, so I can understand you wouldn't want to give up a third at least of net profits. I think what I heard from the town hall was it subsidizes of the other amenities.
Yes.
So I guess I don't really want to minimize that. I mean, this is a decision about what gaming looks like, and that's why I'm struggling with, well, we don't know what gaming looks like here in Texas. I mean, I know you're very experienced, and I appreciate you coming and speaking with us. It sounds like you're very experienced with gaming regulations and how that works in other states. That's not here in Texas. It's not here in Irving. So it's hard for me to get comfort of like, well, it's highly regulated. It's the safest it'll ever be. We don't know that. We don't know what, if it ever is passed, we don't know what will be passed. I mean, I've heard speculation it might just relate to sports betting. It might just relate to other kinds of gaming. So, and that's why I think a lot of people are excited about the prospect of a first-class resort destination, like minus the gaming, because it's a great site for something that would be a great venue for communities, families, everybody. So I guess I don't know. I'm getting to a question. Is it really a non-starter that we couldn't move forward, like defer the decision on gaming, give you a chance to start developing, or is this really like we need? Like I'm having a hard time understanding the urgency.
Well, Commissioner, as I said, we only do destination resorts. We will not develop a hotel project or resort project that does not have gaming. That is not what we do. We're very true to our core business. It's the same reason I said we essentially, left Bethlehem. It was not in alignment with what our core business is, which is large-scale, multi-use, multi-attraction with gaming. And gaming, absolutely. Gaming is a financial underpinning of this.
Yeah. Well, so I guess that gets to my next question, which is, if the city of Irving were to essentially partner with you to achieve the vision that you've laid out, which, the properties are very impressive, no question that there are first-class destinations that have been developed. But some of my questions from our last working session had to do with, well, what assurances do we actually have moving forward? Like, is there something like a memorandum of understanding, like good faith commitments? Because I know you have a reputation for these other developments, but I don't know what actually is committed, like 9,000 jobs. Like, what is there some commitment that that's going to happen? Like, I guess I'm just wondering what is the commitment right now that if it weren't going to happen, there would be something enforceable, something that said, hey, wait, you said you're going to bring 9,000 jobs.
Well, in the destination resort, I will say there is some metrics for what a destination resort needs to be, and we've agreed to put those in the destination resort definition in this zoning language. And it talks about a scale of project that we would commit to. 1,750 hotel rooms, 500,000 square feet of meeting space, a minimum of a 4 million square foot of development. Those are metrics that talk about the scale that we would be willing to commit to for this project. We could not come back under this zoning language and say, we only want to build 1,000 rooms, and we really don't want to build meeting space. We've made a commitment to build the big components of this that make up a destination resort. We've made that commitment, and it's in this zoning resolution.
So would you consider these minimums, I guess I I'd like a little, I don't know if you're able to provide this, but just a little bit more understanding of how we arrived at these numbers. So, just so that we have an assurance that this, because I think one thing we're looking at is the decision that's being made, which we're asked to make a recommendation of the city council. And so it's actually not tied to the owner of the property, it's tied to the property itself. So it's one reason I ask about assurances from the company, because it's not necessarily like 5 years from now, if it gets sold, these are the entitlements that are getting placed on the land. So where, like, for example, 1,700 rooms for a hotel minimum, I noticed that I did some searching. That's a little smaller than the biggest hotel in Dallas, Sheraton Dallas, I think. And but it's certainly larger than any hotel, I think, in Irving. So can you speak more to where, like, for example, that number and these other minimums came from?
Sure. I mean, the metrics, you always want to under-promise and over-deliver, right? So I would envision that 1,750 is the bottom line that we would probably develop for this destination resort. If you look at our properties, we continue to add. We're in the midst of adding another hotel tower to Marina Bay Sands, adding another 700 rooms and a 15,000-seat arena. That is a $6 billion project in Singapore, right? We understand that we have certain minimums that we're committing to, but it's very likely that we would build more than that. I can't guarantee that. I don't want to guarantee that I build 1 million square feet of meeting space or I build 3,000 hotel rooms. If this market dictates it once we're open, we will continue to build beyond that.
And I appreciate that. I guess part of what I'm getting at is if this is the safety net for us to get comfortable that this is going to be a first-class development, rather than talking about, I mean, I'd like to get comfortable that these aren't just minimums that we could get by with. Like, can we get overpromise in case it underdelivers, and really get strong commitments of, like, this is going to be the best thing you guys have ever done. And I mean, I don't know if that, obviously you're not negotiating with me, but this is the kind of stuff we're thinking of. If these are our assurances,
There is very few people out there that would commit to those kinds of square footages as a typical hotel developer. Those are enormous numbers of meeting space and square footage and hotel rooms. A typical hotel room, hotel development, 500 rooms. This is 3 times that. The 4 million square feet is roughly twice the size of the Gaylord. I mean, these are big projects.
well, I went through some of the numbers. It's not, I mean, the hotel is not enormous. It's smaller than the largest hotel in Dallas. The convention center is 500,000 square feet, which is, it's about twice the size of the Irving Convention, but it's dwarfed by the 2 million square feet of the Dallas Convention Center. And then there's a live entertainment theater with a minimum 4,000 seats, which is smaller than what's at the Toyota Music Center. There's an option to put in an arena, but that's optional, so I don't know if that would happen. So I don't know where the enormous number comes from.
Well, if I told you that 4 million square feet translated to probably $4.5 to $5 billion investment, that's an enormous number. I think we can all agree on that, right?
Oh, I'm
I mean,
trying to
I'm
get
not
there.
quite sure what you're asking me for. Do you want us to commit to more hotel rooms and more meeting space as part of this? I mean, please tell me exactly what you're looking for us to commit to.
No, I'm hoping that we can get comfortable that this is our assurance that this is going to be a first-class development, like you've said. And so, respectfully, I'm pushing back just
I
to
understand.
try to pressure test where we're at.
It's hard to legislate quality, right? That's a problem. And what we've tried to do is find a way around that, because you can't legislate a quality level of development. All you can do is look at what we've done. We have never done anything less than the quality of what you've seen today. Now, I can't ask you to take my word for it, because by the time this all happens, I might be gone, you all might be gone. If there's a way to get you more comfortable with the quality and the scale of what we would be willing to develop, we're happy to work with you with that moving forward.
Well, that might be a decision for all of us, but I think that might be a consideration of whether or not now is the time to approve this or perhaps approve it on a more narrow basis until that comfort comes. But I would just like, I think that's something for us to consider.
Okay. I'm not sure how you arrive at that number. That's the question, because you're concerned as to little other people might look at and say, that's enormous. And I'm afraid of a 4 million square foot project. So,
Following up on one thing that you said, real quick, sorry.
Go ahead.
You'd mentioned in your presentation, I think, that it's a different model than we see in a lot of other places. And I'll admit, I haven't seen to a lot of casinos. I've seen some of the ones around the edges of Texas, and the areas don't look all that great. It doesn't look like it's been particularly good for them. So certainly that gives me a little bit of pause. And so being able to understand what makes what you're proposing different is really important. And obviously, the pictures, they're very impressive looking properties. So that certainly is very helpful. But I was wondering whether you could speak to models that we could be looking at, and this is one of the things we asked about at the last work session. What are examples where these projects have been done well, not just in terms of obviously the facilities that you all have built are beautiful looking facilities, but ways of being able to look at how it's been beneficial to those communities, how it has, not decreased property values, not, increased crime, how has it, what has been kind of the kind of residential that ended up nearby, if any at all. Those are the sorts of things that, looking at it, are of concern. That I think some of what Commissioner Denny is getting at is a feeling that this seems to have been going very fast, and we don't feel like we have the data to be able to make a good recommendation that we normally do. We just recently enacted an ordinance relating to data centers, and that's a pretty simple thing in many ways, but we spent a lot longer on working it out and trying to make sure that we paid attention to the ways in which it would influence and affect the communities around them wherever they got placed. And so that's part of it. So I would ask, are there models that we could be looking to of where this has been done well, and also where it hasn't been done well and what's different?
well, I will reference two properties, Green Valley Ranch and Red Rock Resorts.
Green Valley
Now-
Ranch?
Green Valley Ranch and Red Rock Resorts. Now, most people think that every casino in Las Vegas is on the Strip, and they're not. Those two sit in two of the highest priced residential portions outside Las Vegas. I happen to live 1 mile from two casinos, and next door on the other side of that casino is probably the highest priced condo towers in all of the Las Vegas Valley. Okay? The Red Rock Resort is part of downtown Summerlin. It anchors one end of a retail and restaurant development that is surrounded by mid-rise residential, slowly developing. Howard Hughes Corporation is the Summerlin master planner. And that resort is very much a part of the community. They have movie theaters, they have bowling alleys, they have great restaurants. Yes, it has a casino, it has a hotel, it has great pools. People come to visit, and many of them don't want to be on the Strip because they don't like the hustle bustle. They like a more locals, low-key resort. Those resorts fit into the communities that they're in Henderson and Summerlin. They are integral parts of the community.
So how would we, as best we can, make sure that that would be the sort of the thing we would end up with, rather than, the many examples people have seen that don't look as attractive?
Well, I showed you the kinds of attractions that a destination resort, a large-scale destination resort, typically has. Probably 3/4 of the photos I showed you are in our properties. Okay? These are other means of entertainment that are for the midweek convention visitor, the weekend leisure traveler, the locals. You have a wide variety of uses because you want everybody to have something to go to in your properties.
Okay, so The numbers that Commissioner Denny was talking about, the sort of minimums that are in place, or that are part of the definition of destination resorts as it's been presented to us, we're pretty familiar with, various sorts of restrictions on, square footage in terms of all sorts of different uses. Would one option be to add in a provision that provides some sort of clear limit on the size of the gaming?
I don't think we can do that without knowing what the state would legislate.
Okay.
I think that's getting ahead of us because we
Well,
don't know
I think that
yet.
is some of our concern, is that we're getting ahead of it. That is making it hard.
Well,
I share
but
Commissioner Denny's
obviously-
concern that
Yes.
I'm nervous that we're deciding on something before we really know the environment within which we would need to make that decision, and not knowing what kind of gaming is going to be permitted by the state, if any, obviously, but, what kind is going to be permitted by the state, assuming that passes, and what sort of restrictions will already be in the place at the state level, would be a very helpful thing in terms of the city being able to evaluate, maybe then at that point, the council says, wow, the state's regulations look great. That's what we would want in place if we were going to do this. We're good with that. On the other hand, the council might say, you know what, that's a good start, but there's some other things that would be better for Irving, in light of the specific circumstances that apply in this community. That's where my hesitation about the time frame. And so I am curious, just, this came to us very recently as a commission, and so we're making a recommendation very quickly without any sort of significant analysis of the way in which this would impact the Irving community, and without really a lot of looking at other communities to see what the impact has been. Why do you need a decision now as opposed to, say, this summer after the legislature is already out of session?
Well, I don't want to start any work on this site unless I know I'm going to be able to build something.
And I understand
Honestly,
that. That's why I'm only talking
the
about,
site work,
months.
the site work could be $50 million.
Okay.
It's significant. And
Absolutely.
I would like to be able to start doing something out there, but without certainty, I'm not going to do that. And all that does is push development further off. That
Okay,
site,
but
I
you're
don't know how
talking
long.
about a development that's going to take many years. So, 3 to 6 months doesn't seem like that much of a delay in terms of giving a chance for the city staff to be able to speak to other cities, to see what their experience was with it, what sort of ordinances and restrictions they found were useful, which ones they found weren't. Wouldn't make any sense to put restrictions on you that weren't going to be useful restrictions in terms of benefiting the community. But at the same time, it would certainly be helpful to have the insights of other people who've gone through this. That's why I'm wondering, I'm not talking waiting 2, 3, 4, 6, 8 years, but just 3 to 6 months. From it coming to us, or from the city council meeting where they moved this forward to their meeting on Thursday, I think it'll have been about 3 weeks. That's very fast.
I can't react to that. We have been talking with, about this site with various ideas for much more time than that, a year. Our early conversations just to start to understand what was envisioned for the site under PUD 6, what the changes were that they were envisioning. I think that was a year ago. We've been very clear with what our desire has been on this site from the day we bought it. We bought it to do a destination resort if and when it's approved by the state legislator and the public in a referendum.
So why then didn't y'all come forward with this application to change the ordinance?
Because we don't have a project plan to submit. We don't have a project plan to submit to you. What would I submit as a project plan for consideration? One with a destination resort? Can't do it. One without a destination resort? I don't want to do it. That's why this idea of working with a change of the use, that if it is legalized by the state and the citizens, that it would give us the opportunity to execute what we bought this site with the hope to execute. That was what important.
Well, it's like we've had other portions of PUD 6 come before us just within the past year or two, one of which got removed from PUD 6, another of which had its use changed in certain ways. So I'm not clear on why you wouldn't have been able to come forward if this has been your plan all year, why you couldn't have come forward asking for a modification.
Our understanding was the process for us to come forward with a recommendation was we had to submit a regulating plan that showed what we desired to build there. If that's incorrect,
Okay.
but that is our understanding of what is required to come forward to the Planning and Zoning Board for a change as the applicant is a drawing that illustrates what we want to build and what the uses are. And we cannot do that, and we have not done that.
Okay. Thank you. Commissioner Lightfoot, sorry for the delay.
Josh made some comments a while ago, and he kept saying "we." That don't necessarily reflect everybody. Clear that
What,
up.
not everybody agrees with me? I'm
Clear
shocked.
that up. I do appreciate you coming down here and answering questions and taking questions from us. Let's just simplify this thing from a development standpoint, and maybe we can make this very clear. You're looking for a zoning that would create a destination resort with casino if it becomes legal here, and you're looking to build on this site, correct?
Correct.
Okay. You're looking to go ahead and get started based upon whatever decision is made tonight and by council. You're looking to get started on doing all the dirt work, site work, getting everything prepped and getting everything ready, correct?
Correct.
Okay. From a financial standpoint, you're going to spend roughly $50 million, maybe a little more, depending upon construction costs, correct? Okay. What you paid for that property, what you're going to put into that property, you're making a commitment of a chance to lose money if this does not go through after you do all the site work and everything else, correct?
I will not move forward with the site work until I have a zoning change.
Okay. But even with the zoning change, if you decide not to build, you're going to be pretty close to negative on the property.
With the zoning
Amount of
change,
money you're going to put
with the
into
zoning
it.
change,
Well, that would
I
depend on
have,
how much you sold it for.
Yeah, well, I understand.
I mean,
with the zoning change, I have certainty that if it is passed, that I have the ability to build a destination resort, which allows me to feel better about putting the money into the site work and perhaps starting some of the infrastructure to support a project of this scale.
Okay. And the other thing is I'd like to remind the commissioners, this is brought before us before the city. This is not our applicant. The applicant is actually the city of Irving wanting us to
well,
change.
that's not accurate. I mean, yeah, I understand you're not the applicant,
I'm
and I
not the
understand your reason for why, your understanding is you can't be the applicant here. But we've heard from you and we've heard from the assistant city manager that the terms in which, for instance, gaming is included is a requirement of yours.
Correct.
And so that seems like not quite relevant in that regard.
Well, that's their business structure. Their
Oh,
business,
no, I'm
everybody
not-
has
yeah,
their own
no, I
business
understand
structure, and
that.
they have certain aspects of their business that they have that they utilize, et cetera, and that's their business structure.
And yes, no, and I appreciate your honesty in regards to that. That's very helpful to understand, because it wasn't clear from what I'd heard last time, I think just because y'all weren't here and so we weren't able to ask you the questions, whether destination resort could exclude gaming as a theoretical possibility for you. And so it is very helpful to know, no, that's not one of the things you're considering. If you aren't ultimately doing a destination resort that includes gaming, basically, you're gonna, I would presume, sell the property because you don't do any other sorts of projects.
I can't speak to what that would
Yes.
look like.
But yeah, but that would be outside of what the scope is of what y'all do as a project.
We are destination resort developers.
Right,
That's
yeah.
the only thing we do.
Okay, yeah, no, that's very helpful to know. Mr. Singhvino.
Hello.
Hi.
Thank you for coming. Wanted to ask you, as a real estate broker, can you tell me a little bit about the real estate prices in Las Vegas?
I'm sorry,
Can you tell me about the real estate prices in Las Vegas?
for
Housing.
housing is probably somewhere between $300 and $500 a square foot, depending on where you are and the quality level of housing.
Have values increased in the last few years?
I can't answer that. I don't know.
Okay.
But they likely have after COVID, obviously tempered by rising interest rates.
Thank you. Let me ask you about the arena. Is it going to be built or not?
If we build a destination resort, we will build an arena. I am not telling you that it is for an athletic sports team or not. So don't ask, don't ask. We knew it was going to come at some point. I will tell you that every one of our properties has an arena or more than one. The one that does not is Marina Bay Sands, and as part of our $6 billion expansion, we're building a 15,000-seat arena that is music-focused. It is not sports-focused.
All right. Thank you. You just answered the second question as well that I had. That was about the Mavericks. So
No Luka questions tonight.
now, let me ask you, in terms of the casino, what will be the proportion of the casino when compared to the whole project? I mean, let's say the project is going to be 4 million square feet. What would you think will be the square footage of a casino if it was allowed and placed in there?
Well, again, it will be restricted by what the Gaming Commission comes up with, but if you look historically at our properties, it's somewhere between the 6 and 10% range, and it depends on what you include in that total metric. Does it include all the parking? Does it include all the mechanical? Does it include every square foot of something you've built?
Yeah, no,
Obviously,
not
if it
including
does, the percentage goes down, and if it's conditioned space, it's a different percentage.
So at most, you're saying like the casino is going to be about a tenth of the overall project?
I don't know what it would be, because I don't know whether it would be legislated higher or lower.
Okay.
I can't answer that. All I can tell you is based on the properties we have today.
That's about historically what it's been,
Yes.
about 6
Yes.
to, maybe a tenth maximum. All right, thank you.
Commissioner Ahmed, sorry for missing that you were next in line there.
That's all right.
And welcome to the commission as well.
All right.
It's a long meeting for your first one.
Hi, thanks for coming today. My name is Fahad. I'm the new kid on the block. Few questions I think that is kind of generating some discomfort with the citizens and the folks in the audience as well. One of the things you mentioned is the amount of security and safety that is provided at casinos.
Correct.
I'm assuming a lot of that is done proactively, but some of that is also reactive. Even though after doing everything you guys do, you're also catching the bad apples and the bad actors that are in the casinos and outside as well, correct?
Yeah.
Do you guys have that data? That what amount of cases are you guys catching? Either are you guys handling it yourself or turning it over to the police?
I'm sure there's data that we could pull. I don't have that readily available to me.
Got it. Do we have any way in from the Police Commission of Irving that whether they will be able to handle a casino with large amount of activities in the city?
Andy, have we had any? Has
Mr.
the police
Sanders.
department weighed in on?
Excuse me,
All
sir.
right.
Yeah,
I know where he's headed with this.
Okay, all right, great.
For two things. One is, we have a heavy police presence of our own security people. For the City of Irving Police, if you understand the metrics that I talked about in terms of tax revenue, a lot of that can go towards increased police presence as well. We would envision on a project of this scale that we would build a police substation and a fire station on this site. It's necessary for a project that could be as big as we've envisioned.
Yeah, but I think that's also a twofold problem. One is that you're resolving by adding the funding. The other is the staffing, right? I've had plenty of meetings with the Deputy Chief Commissioner regarding the increased crime rate in the Valley Ranch area, some of the other areas. And the consistent response we get is we just don't have enough staffing. We're trying, we're just not getting it, right? So if our current activities and crime load and the calls they have, we're not able to address that. A 4 million square foot property with a significant revenue stream from casino makes me a little concerning about whether the city is ready to handle that or not. And I know we can't answer that today, but it would be good to know what your activity and engagement was with some of the other areas where you guys built that is not Las Vegas, right? Because Las Vegas is built around casinos. That city is made for that. But some of the other areas where they're similar to Irving, where you built a destination resort. Have you guys had any engagement with police there? What has
We
the
always do.
activities been?
We always do. I mean, in our one project that we're pursuing right now in New York, we have worked closely with the police department up front, and to the point where we have built them a substation into our project design so that they can have a few guys there when necessary. Most of the issues, if they become issues, are taken care of first and foremost by our security staff on property. because we flood the property with a lot of security people to proactively recognize whether something happens before it happens and escort those people off the floor, whether it be compulsive gaming, it be solicitation, it be whatever it is, right? We are the first responders because we are there. We have a security presence on the floor, both visible in uniforms. We have canine dogs that walk our properties, and we have plainclothes folks walking around the properties. There's a heavy level of security on these floors.
Yeah, it still happens, though. I've been to
It
Venetian plenty of times and Palazzos.
It absolutely happens. You
Yeah.
cannot stop it from happening, but you can cut it way down by proactively being ready for it and recognizing what the incidents might be before they occur.
Would you say that having a casino is attracting that, whether it's happening or not, versus not having a casino?
I think any kind of place where there's a large congregation of people attracts perhaps some undesirable behavior.
I understand. I mean, I've been to Venetian and Plaza plenty of time, and I've, been to the conference center there. Beautiful, beautiful property. But even like as a corporate employee over there, we see activities over there. I've had to fire employees because they were involved in illicit activities over there. So I know it happens. Last question I have, I'm not sure if you've had the opportunity to get that data or not, but maybe from somebody from city like Dan or traffic department. Has the city weighed in on the load of traffic this puts on that part of the town, the throughput of traffic in that area, and what does that do to the, the highway, the exits, the throughput, and then the main branches?
Well, all I can say is we've had 2 meetings so far with TxDOT. The first thing I was concerned about as a landowner is how do I get people on and off of my site? And they came forward with diagrams that showed all the ways in and off these highways that take you on one loop road and into our site. So the conclusion from the first meeting was that this will have minimal impact. If you're coming by highway, this will have minimal impact all the locals. I didn't say it wouldn't have minimal impact to the highways, because this town has rush hour 24 hours a day, apparently. But we have to study that. We have not gotten into actual traffic studies yet. But the first concern we had was, can we get in and out of the site easily and off of the highways? So that looks like it works. Now, with any project of this scale, we have to do traffic studies, and there will be traffic mitigation that will be required, absolutely.
Yeah.
But part of that is understanding what's going to be built on that site. If I go build 4-story townhomes across the site, that's a very different traffic modality and load than if I'm building a destination resort and retail and arenas and other aspects. So we have to model a couple of options and then understand. In Nassau County, we are looking 5 miles out from the site in terms of what traffic mitigation has to be. And in one case, we possibly, when we have a full build-out, we'll have to widen the Meadowbrook Parkway. That's what's going to happen. So we'll have to study this within the confines of the site and then in concentric rings going out so we can understand the impacts. Now, the good news is, right, we have a DART station. We're close to the airports. That doesn't mean there's going to be less highway traffic. I can tell you there's not going to be less highway traffic. But what the mitigation of that is would have to be determined.
Yeah, and it goes without saying that City of Irving could use a destination and an attraction like this in a transformational project. I think the commitment that council has shown so far is kind of showing that, hey, we want to be that town where we become the destination. I guess my concern is that some of these questions that I've asked here, we just don't have enough data on that yet. And it makes it very uncomfortable for me to weigh in on something that we just don't have enough data for. So, but I thank you for coming and presenting today.
Commissioner Merrick?
Yeah, I think that the audience was laughing because when the Cowboy Stadium was there, it was always traffic over there, so.
And they parked on our site.
Yeah.
They parked on our site.
Yeah. My other question was, I think it was in Friday's presentation, there was a mention about the location of the casino, like having it where it's not so visible. It's more internal to the destination opposed to big billboard signs outside saying, casino, come this way. Is that what you all are envisioning?
Yeah, I think if you looked at our properties, you would see, as we layered those floor plans in, that the casino is internal. You walk through Marina Bay Sands, and unless you're looking for the casino, you will not fall into it like you do in Vegas, right? Vegas, you can walk through the casino to get to the meeting space if you want to. You can walk through it to get to the retail space. But I think that's just a site planning issue that we can look at. And as I said, if we move forward with a project, as I mentioned earlier, we would look at how, with the neighboring community as well as the citizens here, how we could lay out a project that would isolate that casino so it's not front and center and the main attraction.
Vice Chair Hyde.
Mr. Bokenhide, thank you. I know it's not easy to stand there for an hour and a half.
Okay, what I'm here for.
We appreciate it. I have a number of remarks which I may save for the official public hearing at 7 p.m. But I'd just like to remind my fellow commissioners, this is a land use case. Wells Fargo came in. I had no lead up to the Wells Fargo, and we had to vote on Wells Fargo. All of those conversations take place with the city, with the economic development team, Chamber of Commerce, CVB. All of those discussions take place, and we are voting on land use. We are not voting on some of what you're discussing this evening. There are 100 steps to this project before a ribbon cutting. We are on step 2. We've got the largest tax-paying landowner standing in front of us, and we have the responsibility to give them the ability to make decisions tonight which will allow them to maximize the property which they have bought. And that's our purpose tonight.
Thank you.
Provide them with that opportunity to design something. There are 98 more steps which all of the residents have the opportunity to weigh in on as they occur. But tonight is the time for the right decision on land use, not on casinos.
Commissioner Reyes. Oh, sorry, Commissioner White. Let's take you next.
I just wanted to clarify two things. If this is approved tonight, will you work with fire and police to start helping them, since it's going to take a couple of years or longer, but start helping them get the ratio they need to accommodate this type of resort?
For this resort, we will work with them as we build up to opening it, yes.
Okay, second thing is if it does pass and it moves on to council and council passes it, are you willing to follow the regulatory guidelines that the city council will put in place as far as Commissioner Merck asked, making the casino not necessarily just, a big billboard sticking out front, but you're willing to work with some of the regulatory changes that would help the community and make it fit properly in our community and make it safe for our community?
We want to work with the community to move this project forward in a fashion that they'll be comfortable with.
Okay.
We will commit to working with the community, with the P&Z group, everybody in the city, to create something that works for them, minimizes their concerns, and addresses their concerns.
Well, from an architectural standpoint, as you know, you can change some stuff up that makes it a lot safer, a lot more
Correct.
Appealing.
Yes.
And that's what we're wanting to make sure. I think that's what Denny and Josh was wanting, that commitment that you're willing to work with the city to make that happen.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Reyes.
Good evening, and thank you for answering our questions. I do have one question. You mentioned during your presentation the financial tax benefits that the city
Yes.
would gain having this destination resort. Will you touch a little more on what you have seen in the Singapore, Marina Bays, and Las Vegas as far as those financial tax benefits towards the city and what they look like?
Well, I'm really not prepared to talk about that in terms of what the tax rate is and what we've paid in there. But, I think there's no doubt that Singapore has been transformed by our project. Marina Bay Sands was developed to be a major tourist destination for Singapore. There's an interesting story which might have been mentioned Friday. Excuse me. When we built that property, we had probably 2,800 rooms in that property, and every hotelier in Singapore was concerned that they would lose all their business to us.
Right.
And as it turned out, they didn't. They actually benefited. because our property became such a draw that our 2,800 rooms could not accommodate the visitation that came to Singapore to see an iconic building. And every one of those hotels' rates went up 50% or some range like that. They benefited from us coming into the community. So it has very much lifted up the Singapore community because it has become the icon of Singapore. Everybody wants to go there and be in their zero-edge pool, 55 stories above Singapore. People want to come there. They want to see what we've created. There's a great art program. There's great entertainment venues, great restaurants. And I will tell you, probably 3/4 of the patrons of the retail and restaurants are local Singaporeans. This has become a hub of Singapore for entertainment.
Additionally, do you have any more information to touch on as far as like the residents, like the residential portion of the development?
Of this proposal?
Yes.
No, I don't. And I think this is very interesting because there's very few projects that I know of that are destination resorts that have a significant residential component. But if we look at City Center in Las Vegas, it has a multitude of residential towers. Some of them are condo hotel towers, some of them are just plain condos, some of them are rentals. And it's been very successful because it sits in the middle of a large resort that has a large shopping experience below, has great food and beverage, meeting space. And yes, it has entertainment in the form of gambling, but it has all the other entertainment venues as well. So they are very successful. The residential that we would envision here, one of the things that was expressed to us by folks in conversations is that there needs to be higher quality residential. And as I said earlier, you can't really regulate quality in the zoning, but we did agree that any residential we would build would be, I think it was 10 stories or 100 feet. There was a height limit in there to store. Now, what does that mean? It means you can't do stick-built 4-story residential. It becomes concrete construction, which is more expensive, which means it's a higher quality building.
Right.
So we've tried to subtly influence the quality of what the product would be there so that there's a different opportunity. And I do believe that mid-rise and high-rise residential as a component of this master plan would be beneficial. People like being able to come home, drop their car, walk across the street and have entertainment on the evenings without having to get in a car or an Uber and riding to and from there. So we do think that, that a residential component at some phase in the project would become a very important aspect of this.
So you mentioned the phases. Right now, we don't have it, there's no phases at the moment, correct?
There's no project right now,
Okay.
so there's no phases.
That's all my questions at this time.
But I
Thank you.
mean, are you meaning the phases that were originally in the ordinance? Because we talked about that last time.
Right,
And
right.
those are being removed from the ordinance, as I
Oh.
understood it.
Yes,
Okay.
I believe so.
That's all my questions. Thank you.
Commissioner Denny.
Yeah, I would like to circle back a little bit to how tied this development is to gaming. I mean, I appreciate my commissioners. We all love Irving, so I think that's why we're here. We have different points of view. We sometimes have, later we may have robust discussions. This is a land use case from the perspective that we are being asked to recommend approval or denial on a mixed-use district that with a permitted use of casino gaming, and that's squarely before us. And I've heard you say that you are in the business of destination resorts that includes casino gaming. That's what you do. You're looking for the green light to start the site work, to know that that's an option. But like, for example, if it doesn't pass the state legislature this year, it's going to be 2 years before it comes up again. How much work could we expect on that site if it's uncertain it's going to get passed? And if it doesn't get passed in 3 years, what happens in 5 years?
Well, as I said, I mean, the flexibility we're looking for is if we know that we have the rights to build a destination resort, should it come, I can create a master plan that leaves that site and whatever the scale of it and location, I can leave that out and start looking at the rest of the site for other types of development, whether it's residential or other uses.
So you anticipate starting that a significant development, even if it's uncertain.
I didn't say that. What I'm saying is it would allow me to start looking at that. There's market demographics, market trends that we have to be understanding also. Is mid-rise and high-rise residential something that, there's a market for? And maybe there isn't now, maybe it is 5 years from now, maybe it is 2 years, maybe it is now. But it gives us the flexibility to start thinking about the non-destination resort pieces on this site.
Thank you.
Commissioner Pritchard?
Thank you for coming, making your presentation. I'm taking a little different tact because I've got some experience more than some of the other commissioners on here. I lived in Las Vegas for 16 years, and my business had to deal with hotels, conventions, meeting space, availability, not only in Vegas, Australia, California, Florida, Louisiana, even here in Dallas. And first off, my favorite hotel out there happened to be the Venetian. It's an all-suites hotel, and you do quality work. The other thing, I lived a mile away from Valley Ranch and in Henderson, and that's not one of y'all's hotels. And yet, our property values over that time frame on my particular home went up 150% in a few years, and it's over 200% now. Kind of wish I kept it, but anyway. But I asked my wife the other night, I said, tell me the cons, why we shouldn't do this. She said, well, first off, we're talking about security. She says, I always felt a lot more secure going into the resorts and the casinos because we knew 10,000 cameras. Security is second to none in all your luxury hotels out there. And they're all tied in, facial recognition on their computer system. So if you got a bad actor in one hotel, it gets reported to all the hotels like right now. And I know that the questions was brought up in the last Tuesday night. Well, how is this going to affect our convention center? Or how it might affect Toyota Music Factory? Well, again, being involved in doing seminars and having a plan for that, the old saying, a rising tide raises all boats. And I said this last week. I said that our convention center will grow and gain business because when you have a destination resort that's going to bring in conventions, most of the time you'll have a lot of vendors come in and they can't really maybe afford the hotels and the destination hotel. So most of our hotels, whether it be the Westin or Ritz-Carlton or Omni, their business will go up. Entertainment-wise, the Sands will have headliners, and they'll have other people out there, and the increase in business for the Toyota Music Factory will go up too. Because when we would go into it, when I would take our company, we'll say in New Orleans, that we would probably stay at Embassy Suites. We'd stay somewhere close, but in a more affordable place for us. And we might have our meetings somewhere else. So you will have, and I'll use the example, the one big convention I was tied with for 25 years. And it's been here in Dallas once, and I think if we get it, we'll get it back again. We brought in 25,000 people for 4 days. I say that particular convention. All right, and you probably could speak to this, or your partner back there, that 25,000 over a 4-day period. What type of economic impact will that have on the city of Irving?
It's a huge impact.
A huge impact. And this particular piece of property is a primo location for this destination resort, and obviously, I don't see too many negatives about it. I know that, the crime's going to rise. There's no indicator that's going to happen. But you're also a lot better prepared for it, because I know how your company operates, that our police department will be supplemented and will receive some of the, I'll call it grants from you from a hotel to strengthen them along with our first responders, the fire department, EMS, and everything else. So again, I appreciate your coming, and I approach this from a different basis. I've lived in that arena, and by the way, I was there 16 years, and if I spent $200 in 16 years gambling, that was a lot. Because the one thing I can tell you about all those beautiful casinos out there, they didn't build those on their losings, okay? So anyway, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Oh, there was one thing that had come up earlier, and I don't think I asked. Some of what I gathered was said at the town hall on Friday, and unfortunately I wasn't able to attend that one. I got the impression that that some of the model and the numbers for how much money might come into the city would be dependent on it being the only such facility within the Metroplex or within North Texas. And I would imagine that, especially if it's as successful as you've described and generates as much tax revenue as you've described, probably a lot of other cities would be interested in having something similar. It seems like that would tend to reduce the tax revenue that would come in. So in terms of looking at it, to what extent have you been able to consider those factors in your numbers? You brought up the numbers and sort of quoted out the numbers of the money that would come to Irving and to the county and the school district and so forth. But I was concerned that those numbers might not be the right numbers for us to be comparing and considering.
You're right, they might be too low. I mean, it's projected on a model of the metrics in the legislation of room size and our average occupancy and what we think the rate might be. It's all projections right now because, you know, we could use today's data, and that's what kind of it is. But where will hotel room rates be 5 years from now? Where will convention visitation be? Where will occupancy be? And we've been very fortunate in our products that we have a very high occupancy, both in Singapore, where we run 97% almost year-round. It's amazing.
And for how long has that been? Because certainly some of the studies that I saw, and I think some of the studies that the staff examined, indicated that some of the benefits tended to disappear over time and a real decline. And so how long, what has been y'all's experience in terms of the length of time of those establishments that have done really well?
I will tell you, there's been no decline in Singapore. It is actually growing exponentially in terms of the visitation. The retail spaces in both our Macau and Singapore properties are among the highest revenue per square foot in the world. We get a lot of visitation just for the retail.
And when were those built originally?
Well, they were all staggered over the last 20 years.
Okay.
We have not seen, well, obviously COVID had a
Yes.
little hiccup for everybody everywhere, but we're rebounding nicely from that. Singapore has surpassed where it was before COVID in terms of revenues and visitation, and Macau is slowly inching its way back, and it will get there.
Okay, great. Thank you. Any other questions? We really appreciate, and I think in this case, I mean we really appreciate you coming out to visit with us. It's very helpful for us to have the feedback. You know, our role, sort of the way that I understand it, is that we do make a recommendation to council, but we also have the chance to try and gather information so that then they have as much information as they can, you know, have to be useful in terms of making the decision that they have to make. So I appreciate you taking the time to come, and for whoever it was who came out on Friday to the town hall. And I, you know, gather you've mentioned, and it was mentioned that there'll be more, and that's a very helpful thing in terms of the community.
This is
and
the start of a
understanding.
process.
So,
It's the start of a process. There's a long way to go. We want to be a good corporate citizen, so we will engage with everybody in this community.
great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
These are the ones. Okay. This is just the citizen comment portion, right? Yeah. Okay, okay. Okay, so I I wanted to clarify something in terms of sort of the procedures for this evening. Obviously, we're, after 7. Ideally, we would have been able to start the public hearing now. The way the city's procedures work, and part of it's state law and part of it's just the way the city does it, there is a citizen comment period that's connected to our work session where the people who signed up in advance are permitted to speak. But then there's also a public hearing session in regards to the individual items on our agenda. Obviously, it's the same people you'd be speaking to, so it's easier if you don't say the same thing over and over again. And certainly helps to give a chance for everybody to get heard. There obviously are a lot of people here. We have a lot of people who signed up. And while the citizen comment section is relegated or restricted to the people who signed up in advance, that's not the case for the public hearing portion. Anybody who wants to be able to speak will have the chance to do so. But we do ask that you avoid duplication of what's said. If there's a group or a number of people who know they're saying basically the same thing, it's very helpful to just have one person say it, but we do really want to hear, both for our benefit in terms of the recommendation we make, but also in terms of the information it provides to the city council, what it is that you have and what information you have that would be helpful and additional information in terms of looking at these issues so that the best decision can be made for our community. As was mentioned, we all love the city. That's why we're here. That's why you're here. And so we want to really do this as best we can. So I will call out the names of the people who signed up in advance to speak in the citizen comment. However, if you would rather wait and just speak in the public hearing, and we do it all at once, that's great, but that is up to you. If you signed up in advance to speak in the citizen comment, you do have the right to do so, and we will let you do so. Just so you know, the citizen comment period you get, each speaker is limited to 3 minutes, and then there's usually a timer up on the screen which will indicate when there's only 1 minute left, just so you know. You don't have to take the whole time, but we certainly want to have a chance to hear what everybody has to say, both for and against, or in clarification, or whatever your position is on this issue. So, all right. Let's see. April, did you want to read the statement on the citizen comment section? Yeah.
Okay, so when you approach the podium, please state your name and address prior to your comments, and any handouts that you wish to provide should be provided to the committee liaison. Please do not approach the commission.
All right. And I will call out the first person and then the next person, the person who will come after them, who signed up for citizen comment as part of the work session. The first person is Christina Winters, and the second is Carl Martin.
Hi there. Christina Winters, 3716 Santiago Court. Hi, everyone. I've been a resident since '88 and have seen, as I'm sure you know, tremendous growth. And this opportunity that we have is amazing for every part of our city. And I see a lot of signs, no casinos. Well, first of all, we don't have gambling in Texas, and it could be 10 years before that ever happens. And to hold back such an economic engine as something like this, I saw the presentation at the Chamber Economic Development meeting, and I have been very active in the city the whole time I have lived here. I just purchased a home in South Irving. It's the Gilbert home. It's on the registry, and I'm starting another business and am planning on opening a ladies' shop down there, because that downtown Irving could be a burgeoning economic engine also, if we make the right decisions. I'm sure all of you know what Bishop Arts looks like. That could be Irving. We have an obligation to offer our citizens the lifestyle that is available. And what that is in the future is feet on the street, not only up here in the urban center, but also in downtown Irving. And I plan on supporting the growth of downtown Irving, because this area is really already taking off. And this whole idea of feet on the street is critical. That's our future. Young people, old people, all want to just live, work, and play in an area where there are so many things offered for them to do all of those things and not have to get in a car or get on a bus. And as far as transportation, downtown Irving has a train coming right into it. So we could have people from
Ma'am,
all...
your time has expired.
Really?
Yep.
Oh, I wasn't watching. Anyways, I love this city. We need to support that facility. We need it.
All right. Carl Martin.
Love our city.
Carl Martin. Carl Martin, followed by the Honorable Rodney Anderson. Carl Martin? No? Honorable Rodney Anderson. Okay, followed by Keith Pym.
My name is Rodney Anderson. I live at 548 Edgeview Drive in Grand Prairie. And I stand before you tonight, this crowd tonight, as your former state representative who was adamantly opposed to gaming. Yet I'm in complete support of the planned rezoning of PD 6. It would create an opportunity for high-quality development on the old Texas Stadium site, one of the most valuable and underutilized properties in Irving. Let me be clear, despite what you've heard, this is a simple zoning change case. This is not a vote to approve a casino. There are some well-intentioned people. May I reserve my time, sir? May I reserve my time?
I'll give you a few extra seconds.
Thank you. Despite what you may have heard, this is a simple voting case. This is not to approve a casino. There are some well-intentioned people who've taken a very small slice of this PD case and turned it into a campaign issue. Irving has seen great successes, but we've also watched valuable resources slip away. The Cowboys and their training facility was lost, and for almost 2 decades, the land at Texas Stadium has remained empty despite the best efforts of the state, TxDOT, city staff, and property owners. This site is a missed opportunity, but with the PD changes presented tonight, it could be transformed into a major economic driver, possibly complete with a major sports franchise and all of the development that goes with it. Look at Arlington. By the way, Arlington would love to have this development. You can take action today.
Please keep it quiet. You're just extending his time for those of you who are opposed to him.
You can take action today to ensure this land contributes to the city's success, knowing that there will only be a limited number of guaranteed spots if the legislature approves it. Most likely, only 2 in DFW. Changing the PD presents an incredible opportunity. It means businesses in Irving, means possible new entertainment options, and this is your chance to keep Irving on the map as an economic powerhouse, strengthening Irving and supporting businesses. Let's talk property taxes. A thriving commercial development on this site will generate millions in new tax revenue with incredible employment opportunities. It lowers the tax burden on homeowners. That is smart, conservative fiscal policy and benefits every single resident in this city, which is why I so strongly support this PD change. Let's be clear, this change simply allows for the high-quality development. That's it, nothing more, nothing less. Keep in mind, the legislature has given no indication they're willing to change the existing gaming laws, but what is guaranteed without this change is this property will continue to sit empty and unproductive for the foreseeable future, or worse, you could get currently allowed industrial uses, such as an Amazon distribution center, and that would not be good for the city of Irving. I urge P&Z not to give in to fear. Seize this opportunity and vote in favor of changing the PD. This is about being ready for the future. Let's revitalize this incredible location and ensure Irving remains a premier destination for businesses and family alike. Irving's future depends on it. Thank you.
Keith Pim. Keith Pim, followed by Jacob Puteau.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Keith Pim, and I live at 3335 Kendall Lane in Irving. And unlike what the gentleman from Las Vegas Sands insinuated on Friday, I'm not here to oppose casinos at the behest of Oklahoma gaming interests. Having been born in Las Vegas, spending 21 years surrounded by the influence of gambling and adjacent industries, I can say with confidence that Mr. Aboud's misrepresentation of the social ills of gambling was dwarfed only by his contempt for Irving residents opposing his employer's plans. Though there would be only one casino, the culture it brings would come to dominate Irving in the same way that it dominates Las Vegas. While I could talk about the predatory aspects of gambling, the disreputable adjacent industries, both legal and illegal, or the questionable claims of economic benefit, I will talk only about crime, an inseparable part of any gaming operation. And as a concerned citizen pointed out on Friday, the reason why the Las Vegas Sands requires a small army of security personnel and enough cameras to rival even the most oppressive totalitarian regimes. Within the 0.12 square miles occupied by the former Sands property in Las Vegas, in the zip code with the highest crime in the Las Vegas Valley, the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department reported in the year 2024 over 1,600 crimes, including larceny, motor vehicle theft, aggravated assault, and even a homicide. In particular, the number of drug and narcotics-related crimes is numbered about 378. Irving had 1,397 similar crimes reported in its 62 square mile area, an area over 500 times the size of the former Sands property during the same year. A place the size of a few city blocks committed half the drug and narcotics crime that already exists in Irving. And remember, this level of drug and narcotics-related crime happens in a state with legalized recreational marijuana. The police are not arresting people for small amounts of marijuana. Mr. Aboud repeated over and over and over that crime is not a problem on his employer's property because of their security personnel and extensive surveillance. What does the Las Vegas Police Department's data say? Large amounts of crime aren't committed within the resort, but adjacent to it on Las Vegas Boulevard or in a small hotel in front of the property. This is exactly what will happen in Irving. The Sands Corporation will protect their own property and wash their hands of anything that happens off of it. The great officers of the Irving Police Department and the taxpayers of Irving will be forced to deal with the problems the Las Vegas Sands Corporation causes. I urge the commissioners in front of me to ignore the Sands propaganda and vote against the rezoning effort. Spare Irving and its families the infamy of becoming the Texas of Las Vegas. Thank you, commissioners.
Please keep it down. We got to keep going. We want to give everybody a chance to be heard. Jacob?
Yes,
All right,
sir.
and followed by Michael Simmons.
Thank you. My name is Jacob Potu. I live at 2011 Texas Plaza Drive. I would like to provide some commentary from the perspective of economic development of the redevelopment zone for the purposes of creating jobs. Those of us who are opposed to the casino, I am opposed to the casino. Many of us are, yeah, thank you. But we are not opposed to jobs. We are not opposed to growth. What we are opposed to is the false narrative that job creation and financial independence for Irving must necessarily include a destination resort casino. There's many reasons for this, but I'll be charitable to the crowd and only give you 3. Number 1, the Las Vegas Sands continually claims that the casino gaming component is but a small piece of the puzzle, yet for them it is the only piece of the puzzle that makes it worth their time to invest in the citizens of Irving. Number 2, there are many ways to create jobs. Most thriving cities do not include casinos. The model for economic development should start with the rule, not the exception. What we need are good jobs for the future. This includes technology and innovation, made in America manufacturing jobs, and advanced energy jobs that unleash Texas's energy potential. Further, these innovations will lead to scalability that will meet or exceed the revenues from a single Leviathan casino. Number 3, it is narrow-minded at best and deceptive at worst to suggest that barriers or buffers will stop a casino built on the business of excessive pleasure-seeking from affecting our community. The negative social effects that concern us are not bound by geographic barriers. And it does not follow that crimes like prostitution and human trafficking won't occur simply because it doesn't occur in the casino lobby. Again, it's disingenuous for the Sands to suggest that, and the Irving residents are not fooled. So I will wrap it up. I know my time is running out. In short, economically speaking, the math doesn't work. Rhetorically, the arguments that it won't lead to social harms doesn't work either. The emperor has no clothes. Thank you for your time. God bless.
Michael Simmons, followed by Susan Hanson.
My name is Michael Simmons, and I live at 3500 Hanover Lane. If you want a destination resort, then as the Planning and Zoning Commission, go ahead and plan and zone for a destination resort without the casino gaming approval. But any argument, and I've heard a few of them tonight, in favor of a destination resort that sidesteps the question of a casino is irrelevant. The residents of Irving do not want a casino, and it is your democratic duty to care about that. Our anti-casino petition received 3,500 signatures in 16 days. The much smaller pro-casino petition, I'm tempted to say, has fewer signatures than the number of yes signs here tonight, but it has 115 signatures. In the past 24 hours, ours has received more than 100 signatures, and counting, while theirs has received, in the last 24 hours, 1. So, is ours 100 times more popular? Well, no, that's not quite how exponential math works. But calculating over the first 5 days of each petition to allow for different start dates, the relative exponential growth rate, which is how you compare such things, was roughly 2.6, meaning anti-casino signatures grew 2.5 times faster than pro-casino signatures. Also, the counter-petition's signatories seem confused about what they've signed on to. Here are two of the 4 comments on the change.org page. Irving should take more time to decide and make zoning more favorable to residents. And this is on the pro-casino petition. If this is related to the casino, then I do not agree and do not support. Not even the few people petitioning to pass this amendment want to pass what it actually says. These petitions, of course, are not votes. If you'd really like to know what we want, you might ask us. One town hall is not enough. We need you to listen to us. It is your civic duty. The only vocally anti-casino council member, hi there, put it this way in an interview. For a project, quote, for a project that is so transformational that is totally going to change the city, and it might actually change who lives in the city. A lot of people will leave, a lot of new people will come. I think we should have a mandate as elected representatives to put the seal of approval on something that is of such magnitude. Without it, are we even elected officials, or are we just doing the bidding for billionaire specialists? If the petition, the outrage at your last work session, last week's wreck of a town hall, tonight's turnout, and common sense are not enough to convince you that the residents of Irving do not want a casino, still, you have no stronger mandate from the other side. Hold a referendum if you need to, but you must listen to your people. You are stewards of our city. We need your integrity and your courage. Show us that not everybody has a price. Thank you for your time and attention.
Susan Hanson. Susan Hanson. Yeah. Okay, I need the clapping to be a little shorter because we can't keep this going or moving if people don't hear their names being called ahead of time. All right, and then next will be Eric Palmer.
Forgive me, I thought I was much further down the list. I'm Susan Hanson, and I live at 509 Bella Drive, Irving, Texas, 75062. You are here in Irving, Texas, in 2025. Texas, the land of the free. Irving, Texas is not nowhere. I was present at the very impressive implosion of Texas Stadium. I know that from the Sands Corporation perspective, they see this as empty land in need of development. But Irving itself is not an empty plot of land. Irving is a substantial community that has called Irving home for generations. Sands Corporation has the chutzpah to try to preempt the democratic process without waiting for the state of Texas to vote on casino gambling, doing an end run around free government of the people who live here, by the people who live here, for the people who live here. I'd like to give you a very brief sketch of the history of Irving. Before Irving was a suburb, Irving was a town of churches and schools. In 1947, St. Luke's Catholic Church, home to our enormous Hispanic community, was founded. In 1964, Holy Family Catholic Church was founded. In 1956, the University of Dallas, the Cistercian Abbey, and the Dominican Priory were founded. Irving was made up of churches and schools, Baptists, Methodists, Catholics living together. Then, in the 1970s, the DFW airport was created and the Texas Stadium was built. And suddenly, Irving, the town of Irving, which was the home to people who were worshiping God and raising and educating their own children, became part of the greater DFW area, merely one of the mid-cities. But in 2007, 2008, with the financial crisis, Irving became a destination. We already are a national destination. We're a destination for families. We're a destination from families who want freedom. And this became exponentially apparent after the 2020 COVID lockdown. People realized there were jobs in Texas, there were churches in Texas, there were schools in Texas, and this is where they wanted to raise their families. We are not an anonymous community. We are a thick face-to-face community. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness means freedom of religion, freedom of speech, freedom from fear, and freedom from want. The four great freedoms that we fought for in World War II. We want to worship God, govern ourselves, raise and educate our children in a safe community. Do not undermine that. Thank you.
Eric Palmer, and then followed by Dr. Raed Omar Spate.
Good evening. I'll do my best to keep this brief. 6 years ago, I chose to move my family to Irving to be a part of this community and this culture. I'm a resident, a small business owner, operator, and a father. In regards to the PUD-6, I noticed on the February 26th council work session, every council member that spoke unanimously, multiple times said, this is a project that will transform the city. And even one member saying that nothing like this has ever been attempted in Irving before. So it seems that there's more here to consider than we have had time to explore. I, personally, do not believe anything coming from the Sands Corporation about the potential impacts on our city. They are a $31.6 billion company, and it is in their best interest to promote this as nothing but wonderful for Irving. Followed by vague and misleading research that downplays or completely neglects the negative impacts to our community. We, the community, have done our own research, and as you have heard over and over, we do not support this. And I'd like to take my last few minutes to do something a little unorthodox. Can we have everyone in here who is in favor of the rezoning raise your hands or raise your signs? Everyone against, can you please do the same? I understand that you have a very difficult decision to make here. And also, I implore you not to listen to the billion-dollar companies selling us a brighter future. Listen to the voices of your citizens. We do not want this. Thank you.
Dr. Sabate? No? What's that? Zabet? Thank you. Is he here? Well, there's a public hearing later. There'll be another chance. All right, Sebastian Molo, followed by Timothy Glatz. And if the next person up could be on the sort of halfway down the steps so that we can keep this moving.
Sebastian Molo, 3343 Garrett Drive. I come before you today not merely to oppose the rezoning of a parcel of land, but to sound the alarm against a far greater threat, the erosion of our community integrity, the selling of our city's future to forces that do not share our values, and the creeping influence of money interests that seek to reshape our home for their own gain. The Las Vegas Sands Corporation does not arrive in Irving as a humble partner, nor as a mere business venture. It arrives with a war chest built not on production or innovation, but on the exploitation of vice. It does not seek to enrich this community. It seeks to extract from it. And behind it stands one of the wealthiest and most politically entrenched figures in America today, a financier whose interests extend far beyond the walls of any casino, far beyond the borders of Texas itself. We must ask, what is the true cost of granting this empire a foothold here? What does it mean when those who wield billions in influence, who have shaped national policies, who have dictated the course of foreign affairs, turn their gaze upon Irving? Is this merely about business, or is it about control? Is it about economic development, or is it about expanding the reach of those who see our communities not as homes, but as assets to be manipulated? Even now, we hear of calculated maneuvers disguised as good intentions, of political pressures applied in distant halls of power, of vast sums of money exchanged for influence. Shall we open our doors to such an enterprise, knowing full well the strings that come attached and the evil they are funding? I say no. This is not just a zoning decision. It's the test of our will. Will we stand firm and defend the character of our city, or will we allow ourselves to be bought and sold like many so did before us? If we approve this rezoning, we're not simply inviting a casino. We're inviting a network of influence that does not stop at the gambling tables, but reaches into the very heart of governance, of policy, of power itself. Let this be the day Irving takes a stand, reject this proposal, not only for the sake of our economy, but for the sake of our human dignity. Let us allow our city to become another pawn in the ambitions of the powerful. The decision is yours, commissioners. Choose wisely, for history shall remember what was done here today. Thank you.
Timothy Glatz, and then followed by Deborah Romanek Baldwin.
Timothy Glatz, 117 Santa Rosa Way, Irving. Thank you all for serving on this committee. My simple question to start this off is, what is the amendment case number that we are talking about tonight? Can somebody please answer that?
This is your chance to speak.
Can I present what I think it is? Can I put this right here? And can you project that? My concern is the advertised public hearing dated 3/13 references the incorrect zoning case. The advertised public hearing stated it was hearing zoning case 2024-48-ZC, which is the incorrect case. Instead, the advertised public should have stated the zoning case as 2025-48-ZC, which is the correct case. I feel for you as a committee. This does appear to be very rushed. I look at the audience here, the public here tonight. I firmly believe that there would be more public here tonight if you had the correct zoning case, if you had given the public more notice to show up here instead of 2 business days. Therefore, this hearing was misadvertised. I submit that there would be more concerned people here if they knew the true purpose of today's meeting. There would be more concerned people here if they had more advanced notice of this hearing. There would be more concerned people here if they had been notified of the correct zoning case. I am going to reference Irving's Unified Development Code, UDC-26-4C-4. The Planning and Zoning Commissioning hearing. The Planning and Zoning Commission shall hold on advertised public hearing on any application for PUD zoning district prior to making its recommendation, and shall report their recommendation to the City Council in accordance with standard procedures for a change of zoning. I motion that this should be adjourned and that you should notify the public in advance correctly. Thank you for your time.
Deborah Baldwin, yes, you're next. And then followed by Gregory Pimentel.
Deborah Romanek Baldwin, 913 Glen Vista Drive, South Irving. Why is the PUD 6 rezoning proposal such a bad idea? I think it's not just about the crime, the organized crime and human trafficking that, no matter what's being asserted by some today, rush after casinos like a dog goes after a tennis ball. And I don't think it's just the aesthetics. With its gargantuan size, its aims, as we've just heard, to be iconic, to dwarf everything around it, including the gem of Irving, the University of Dallas. My concern, and the reason I think it's so bad right here, right now, this decision for your commission is procedure. As Commissioners Denny and Skinner asked, why the rush? Casinos are illegal in Texas for a reason. And the Sands Corporation has clearly gotten good legal advice to offload that illegality onto you in principle. They are pressuring you to approve in principle what is currently illegal, what is currently a crime in Texas. Has the Planning and Zoning Commission ever done that before in history? Is that what you want your legacy as commissioners to be? To rubber stamp land use for what is currently in Texas a crime? To approve a preemptive clause that, because of a land use decision, will tie the city council's hands in the future before they've gotten their own legal advice, that will be used or could be used to pressure voters on state and local levels before they've had the chance to decide. As planning and zoning commissioners, your responsibility is not to a private landowner. It is to your city, your council, its residents. Thank you.
Gregory Pimentel, followed by Monica Bildner.
Gregory Pimentel, 1833 Standish Drive. Good evening, Commissioners. The last time that we spoke, myself and many residents expressed surprise about this unusual timeline for the PUD 6 rezoning amendment back on March 4th. We shared our concerns about a plan that would include casino gambling, which, despite the attempt to hide this as a small detail, is the central and essential part of this plan. Our concern is that this will have massive consequences for Irving, which are being only given about 2 weeks to be considered. However, since then, in those 2 weeks, me and my fellow residents have taken a hard look at the facts around casino gambling, especially during that town hall last Friday that's been mentioned a number of times. And what we learned about casino gambling from that hall is not good. Despite glowing promises that were made by the casino proponents, we learned that casinos come with some serious downsides. I'm not the first one to mention these, and I will not be the last, but to reiterate, the reality of casinos, as we've heard, is that they do not grow economies. They drain income from existing businesses in an economy. They do not create prosperity, they encourage addiction and reduce property values, and in the end, casinos do not make cities safer. They attract criminal activity. What we and the vast majority of citizens of Irving have learned over these past 2 weeks is that casino proponents seem to be trying to turn our city into a personal ATM machine, and they very much do not want us to have a say in the matter. They want to sell us a fantasy while hiding the ugly reality of what casinos actually bring, and we will be the ones left to foot the bill. Perhaps not in dollars immediately, but it will be our homes that lose value. It will be our schools and communities that bear the impact of increased crime and addiction, and it will be our children and our grandchildren who inherit the consequences for this city. The PUD 6 zoning amendment is not just another routine zoning proposal, and any attempt to suggest that this is not an endorsement of casino gambling in Irving is frankly false. And the people of Irving know this, and they don't appreciate being gaslit. The casino's proponents have made their case, but the people of Irving are making ours now. We do not want this. You, the Zoning Commission, are the jury in this decision, and I trust that you will deliver the right verdict. We have learned that Irving is strong, Irving is organized, and Irving will not be bullied, bought, or bamboozled into supporting any future casino gambling. Thank you.
Monica Bildner, followed by Alan Dane Waterman.
My name is Monica Bildner. I'm a resident at 1912 Rayburn Court in Irving. I've been a resident of Irving since 2016, and I originally moved to the area because of the neighborhoods that the Las Vegas Sand representative glossed over as the undeveloped land owned by the University of Dallas. It's really interesting. I live diagonally across 114 and Loop 12 from the parcel of land under question. If this zoning change is passed and the proposed project is built, it would have a deleterious effect on the neighborhoods and neighbors in this area. We have several quiet neighborhoods in close proximity. This includes the University of Dallas, 2 schools. We have monasteries, a seminary. We have another religious community. And if I've read the map correctly, this may not be part of the city of Irving, but there is actually a wildlife preserve that backs up to the proposed parcel. So it would have an effect on the animals that live in that environment. Our roads are already, in this area, already fail to handle rush hour traffic. And this is after redoing 114 and Loop 12 and 183. In particularly, 114 exits that would serve this parcel back up, and people must wait through several cycles of traffic lights before crossing intersections, such as Tom Braniff coming off of the, the southbound, I believe? Eastbound, yes, eastbound 114. Adding traffic from high-density residences and the typical traffic in and out of a large hotel would further stress our highway capacity. Adding a casino and traffic for, let's say, a 7 o'clock concert would make rush hours unbearable. The current zoning that is already there for mixed use and moderate density housing is a much more appropriate use of this land than the high density housing and our quote luxury resort casino. Thank you very much.
Alan Dane Waterman, followed by Rafael de la Sugel.
Dane Waterman, 130 West Holland Drive. First, this sign, I'd like to read it in case you can't read what's written at the bottom. It says, paid for by Las Vegas Sands Corporation. Yeah. When I first came here, they were the first 3 rows all the way around were completely covered with signs to help the people who hadn't taken the trouble to get them themselves. Okay, enough said on that. Now, my wife and I spent many hours recently going door to door and speaking with people about in public places about this destination resort casino, in other words, proposal. Virtually everyone we spoke with is opposed. Many were vehemently opposed. A few didn't want to discuss it at all, but only one that we found, just a small sample admittedly, was unequivocally in favor of it. Many people then grumbled that, quote, the people at City Hall are going to push it through no matter what anyone says, and then we'll be stuck with it. They all chuckled in agreement when I said that if it goes to a popular vote, it'll be at an inconvenient date in a minor off-year election with minimal publicity in order to minimize the voter turnout. They thought that was hilarious. Now, of course, plenty of people complain about the government, but in this case, you ought to pay attention because regardless of what you say, I think every one of you knows that what you're considering railing through is an underhanded deal. Put it by in the hopes that it might prove lucrative. But this is a moral issue, not a political or an economic issue. I don't think any of you deep down seriously thinks there's any positive moral good in gambling. At best, some of you may think the financial benefits will outweigh the moral and social costs because you think they're minimal. Maybe, I don't know. You may not have noticed, though, that the most insidious of those social costs comes with the erosion of ordinary people's trust in your goodwill. When it comes to moral matters, the expert is no wiser than the uneducated. The powerful may even be at a disadvantage over the powerless. I'm speaking to you now, not as city officials, but simply as human beings. Trust is the foundation of human society. Betrayal of trust will be a very, very high price to pay for this. Now, maybe it's not obvious that gambling itself is a betrayal of trust. It is, but that would take some explaining. But it is certainly obvious that what you're considering tonight does represent a profound betrayal of trust. If you pass this, I weep for you.
After Raphael, it'll be Saeed Purcell.
Raphael de la Sujol, 1010 Glenhaven Court. I've been there almost 9 years, and my wife, Amber and I, we just welcomed our 7th child, the first to be, 1 week ago today, the first to be born within the Irving city limits. So, support, and we oppose the casino development or any resort, destination resort with casino gambling. The proponents point to job creation and increased tax revenue, which is great. That solves 2 problems we don't have. Irving doesn't have an unemployment problem. We also don't have a runaway deficit budget or a debt crisis looming. Irving does have problems like trash everywhere and a very low rate of home ownership. And zoning for gambling is not going to solve those problems, and it'll likely just make them worse. Zoning for single-family homes, on the other hand, affordable single-family homes, is something that can help our low home ownership rate. Who here is a renter? I see like 5 hands. So the homeowners are obviously the majority here, but we're the minority in our city. The majority of Irving residents don't own their own home. The American dream is not about having a row of slot machines nearby. It's about owning your own home. I searched the MLS last night, and I said, okay, my 5-bedroom house in the hospital district, 1010 Glenhaven Court, I pay less than $2,000 a month because I bought 9 years ago. If I was a new home buyer and I had $2,000 a month to spend on a house, you know how many homes I could afford in Irving? There's 5 listings that fit into that budget. And all of them are 2 bedrooms, 1 bath, about 1,000 square feet, and built 60 years ago. So you're right, this is a land use question. We don't need more hotels or conference centers, but we do need more affordable single-family housing. And if that's going to be zoned commercial, if that, it's probably a better spot for commercial, how about a Costco? Imagine all the tax revenue if I spent my $1,000 a month on Costco here in Irving instead of Southlake or Louisville. Thank you.
Thank you. Saeed Purcell, followed by Deborah Mullane.
Good evening, members of the commission. I spoke last time citing
Oh, sorry, did you say your name and address?
Saeed Purcell, 1700 Jabir Street, Irving, 75061. Last time I spoke here, I cited a group of studies that had been gone over regarding all of the different harms related to resort destination casinos. Many people have already said many of those things, so tonight I am here to speak for the faithful in general, and more specifically for the Muslim community at large. In the Quran, the holy book of the Muslims, the 2nd chapter, 219th verse, it addresses gambling and intoxicants. Those things are definitely linked, stating, "In them is great sin, and yet some benefit for people, but their sin is greater than their benefit." This isn't about denying any potential economic gain, but acknowledging that potential harm far outweighs it. The gradual revelation of the Quran shows that severity. It shows the severity. It wasn't a sudden ban on drinking and gambling, but a process, underscoring the deep-seated problems these activities cause. The final and clear prohibition comes in the 5th chapter, 90th and 91st verses, calling these things an abomination of Satan's handiwork and ordering us to avoid strictly all that abomination. And I just want to highlight one aspect of this. Irving historically was a dry city. Irving historically did not have gambling of any type or shape. Rather than moving in the direction of sanctity, we're moving in the opposite direction of evil. The text emphasizes how gambling and intoxicants create enmity and hatred and hinder the remembrance of God and from prayer. We're talking about more than just money. We're talking about the fabric of our community, our relationships, and our spiritual well-being. Yes, there might be short-term financial gains, but what about the long-term costs? Increased addiction, broken families, and a decline in community values. True prosperity comes from building a strong, healthy community, not from relying on activities that are clearly harmful. Let's choose a path that prioritizes our community's well-being and aligns with our values. Let's vote against this amendment. Let us abstain, as the prophet's companion Omar stated. We did abstain. So please, you also abstain from approving this amendment. Thank you.
Deborah Mullane, followed by Daniel Burns.
Hello, my name is Deborah Mullane. I live at 1785 Restdale Drive in Irving, Texas, and I'm come before you as a concerned citizen of Irving. I have grown up here all of my life, and this situation that you have before you is, I believe, unprecedented. You are being asked to make a decision based on casino gambling as part of the rezoning. While it is still illegal, if you pass this, what other illegal proposals will you be given? What other compromises will you be asked to make? If they're asking for a compromise, an exception to the rule, at the very beginning of this process, this will not be the end. Thank you very much.
Daniel Burns, followed by Enrique Mann.
Daniel Burns, 1017 Sleepy Hollow Drive North. My family and I have lived in Irving for almost 13 years now. I appreciate how frustrating it must be, not only sitting for 3 hours straight, but also watching this suddenly get so controversial. I imagine that if I were any of you, I would want to pass this thing off to the elected officials and say, let them deal with it. The problem is that I don't think you can do that today. Today, the Sands is asking P&Z to do something shady. If you vote yes today, it makes each of you look shady too. I think what you need to do is table this thing today and wait to see what happens in Austin. Because if a gambling bill should ever get through our state constitutional amendment process, as the gentleman from Sands just emphasized, we don't know what it'll say. Maybe we're going to legalize some types of gambling and not others. Maybe there'll be a great big new gambling tax. Whatever gets added in, the Sands, of course, is then going to use it as an excuse. They're going to say, really, sorry, Irving, we wanted to build you this great destination resort the way we described it at the P&Z meeting. Unfortunately, because of this new tax that Austin added, all we can afford now is a whole lot more slot machines and VLTs. Or whatever they may do. They're going to maximize value for their shareholders, and the 9 of you will have been taken for a ride. So don't make any blind commitment today. If you all were in business together, you would never put a casino into your business plan before gambling was legal in Texas. And yet they want you to put a casino into our zoning code before gambling is legal in Texas. Their whole rezoning land use proposal depends on the casino. They said without gaming, without that one small component, we won't build. P&Z should have a very simple answer. Casinos aren't legal. We'll reevaluate your rezoning plan once they are. If any one of us, guys, may I have a few seconds?
Just a few seconds.
If any one of us little people came to P&Z, let's say I said I want to build a factory in Irving for my awesome new cancer drug. I admit the FDA hasn't approved it yet. I can only build if the FDA approves. You know what you'd say to me. 9-0, you would say, come back when the FDA approves it, we'll talk then. That's what you should do today. Table it for now. If they do ever win in Austin, you've already done all the work. Take the documents back out of your drawer, fast track it then if you want, but also see what's changed. Is this now still something we want? Once you have actually gathered the relevant information, no one's going to be angry with you then for an honest vote up or down. But a yes vote today would not be an honest vote for the good of Irving. It can't be because you don't have the information yet. If you push this forward blind, then we have every right to be angry at each of you personally who votes for it, and to ask questions about what could have made you each so hell-bent on this shady deal that you couldn't make them give you the same information that we always have to give you when we come to you with this rezoning request. Those are the kinds of questions that politicians have to deal with. You guys are not politicians and should not. I think you can avoid it all if you stick to your job description and stick together. You can defer this for now. 9-0. Don't bend the rules for billionaires. They need to wait their turn like anyone else. They should win their big fight in Austin and then come to you with a realistic and legal plan for a casino in Irving. At that point, if you do vote to pass it on to the politicians, no one will blame you then for having done your job right and held every applicant to the same standard. Thank you.
Please quiet down. Enrique? Are you Enrique?
Yeah, I'm
Okay,
Enrique, man.
the next person is going to be John G. Is that what it is? John G.
Good. Yeah.
Please go ahead.
All right. Yeah, I'm just like a humble worker guy. I'm not I don't have a lot to say.
Could you give your name and address? Sorry.
Sorry, I'm Enrique, man. I live in 2621 Warren Circle. I'm just an AC technician. I don't know a lot about politics or law or zoning or I know what's right and wrong. I know that I don't want gambling in my town, and that I don't know if you've done much driving on Loop 12 at 6 p.m. on a weekday. It's rough out there. Our infrastructure literally can't handle it. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
John G., followed by Rachel Herrera.
John Gray, 1712 Hillcrest Drive. I've lived in Irving my entire life. I was a student at Brandenburg Elementary, went to high school at MacArthur High School. I actually was in JROTC and did usher service at the old Texas Stadium before it was demolished. I've been all over the world, and I've been to Vegas, I've been to Oklahoma. I'm not a great orator or anything, I'm just an average guy, so I've seen what gambling does, and it preys off of the vulnerable. And I don't want to see that here in Irving. It brings crime, it brings vagrancy, it's just nothing good comes out of it. It's a perfect front for money laundering as well. Organized crime loves casinos, and I don't want to see that happen in Irving. I waive the rest of my time.
Thank you. Rachel Herrera, followed by Benjamin Floyd.
My name is Rachel Herrera. I've lived at 1605 West 7th Street, 75060 for the last 8.5 years. I've been in Irving 10.5 years. If I put something down here, can you see it on my phone?
He can switch it for you.
This is Pam. Pam and her husband were struggling with their businesses, and she started gambling, hoping to save her businesses. She was found in the parking lot of a casino, dead because she shot herself, because she spent every last dime trying to save her business. This lady is my aunt. Gambling does affect families. It does. The signs in casinos that provide help for those with an addiction, those with an addiction do not pay attention to those signs. They don't reach out for help. They hide it. We are at an ultimate high for suicide and depression. We can thank the last administration for that. People with depression are going to find their way in there, hoping to win it big. How many people actually do win it big? How many people? Has anybody said that? How many people walk out there losing their paycheck? And they're going to suffer, their families are going to suffer for that. Many of us struggle because we are a one-income family because we choose to stay home with our children and raise them. We have a difficult time as it is raising our children to be wholesome citizens. And then we're going to add this on top of it. It does affect families. It does. People are going to go spend their paycheck there. And it's going to cause people to lose their families. That's all I have. Thank you.
Benjamin Floyd. Is Benjamin Floyd here? Nope. Then Eric Chastain.
Hello, my name is Eric Chastain. I'm at 1709 Green Oaks Drive and 75061. So I'm one of these freedom chasers that one of the previous speakers was talking about, in the sense of I moved to Irving for opportunity and for freedom. Okay, but let me tell you something. We do want more people here, and we want to grow businesses. We want to grow quality of life. We want to grow all sorts of wonderful things as far as like values and freedom and many things. But let me tell you what we don't want to grow. We don't want to grow criminality. And we don't want the kind of tourism that comes with destination resorts. Why? Okay, so did you know that according to a study by Grinnells and Mustard, there was an increase over the course of 1 to 5 years of crime rates for many categories of crime. I think it was larceny, aggravated assault, rape, robbery, burglary, auto theft. Okay, and a lot of those were because of visitor criminality. So you see, this is the kind of visitor that we don't want in Irving, and this is the kind of visitor that likely will come based on the studies that have been done so far. So the question for you is, yes, there are going to be some people who come here, and that will cost, some of us, all of us, I would argue, quite a lot, no matter what the expected benefits would be. So you have a choice before you right now to serve the people of Irving or to serve this corporation. Choose wisely. Thank you.
So that was the end of the citizen comment period. We're about to adjourn. If you signed up, but you weren't on the citizen comment period, doesn't mean we don't have your name. You must have signed up for the public hearing portion. And so we still have your name, and we'll call it, but also the public hearing portion is open generally. Obviously, with just one time per person. So the work session is adjourned at 8:08 p.m. We will take a probably more like 15-minute break prior to starting the public hearing. Thank you.